are a lot of myths out there about what causes pyometra in a cat and how to prevent it, and I'm here to debunk some of those myths.
Do you want to learn how to become a successful breeder of pedigree cats? Now you can. For the first time ever, enroll in an online training course that takes you step by step through everything you need to know to get on the right track. Visit catbreedersensei.com to sign up today and use code podcast21 to get $25 off.
If you were to look up pyometra in cats right now, you're going to find information that says pyometra is caused from a cat that has too many heat cycles without being mated, that the lining of the uterus becomes thick, which causes cysts in their uterus, therefore causing infection. But is that really what causes pyometra? Let's find out. Pyometra does occur 2 to 8 weeks after their last heat cycle. So with that being said, think about any instances that you've had of pyometra and see if that makes any sense. When the cat is in heat, the cervix can open or become relaxed, allowing bacteria to enter. Also keep that in mind. Now first, let me tell you about some of the experiences that I personally had with pyometra, which is 2 incidences. The first one was with a very young girl who was only 9 months old. She had had 2 heat cycles, and before she ever got to her 3rd heat cycle, she developed open pyometra. She started to discharge just like a normal open pyometra, and I took her to the vet. I was not aware of what I should do at that point. I was relatively new, and the vet said she had vaginitis and put her on Clavamox. That was not a strong enough antibiotics to take care of pyometra, so it just continued to develop and get worse. By the time the weekend had passed, she was really discharging a lot of blood and pus, and it was, an emergency at that point, and I ended up having to spay her because I just didn't know the protocol for how to treat pyometra in a cat. That cat never was able to produce any kittens, and she was spayed due to pyometra. The next incident was with one of my queens. She had delivered her 4th litter of kittens, and 3 days after, she started to have contractions, and she was a little lethargic, and she just was not feeling good. So I took her into the vet, and they told me she had pyometra. Of course, it was the weekend, so I took her to the emergency vet, and they did a spay on her. I had the infection cultured, and it came back as the primary bacteria that caused it was strep G. So with these facts that I'm giving you right now, and I do have the reports, let's continue to talk about pyometra. In our Facebook group, the No Judgment Zone Pedigree Cat Breeder Community, I made a post about pyometra, and I asked for the group members to describe their experience with pyometra and give as many details as possible, like the age that it happened, how many heat cycles that their cat had had, and any other extenuating circumstances that I could use for my research. Over 50 responses on that post alone, and I also got messages in my inbox from people who didn't want to comment on the post. So I took all of that data that was given to me about pyometra, and I combined it into some pretty interesting statistics that I'm going to share with you. From these statistics, you can kind of make your own determination if some of the theories out there about pyometra, mate the cat after 3 heats, is hype, or is some of that should be reanalyzed. In 80% of the cases of cats with pyometra, 80%, they were under the age of 1 year old. 10% was between the ages of 1 and 2 years old, and 10% was over the age of 2 years old. That's a very overwhelming majority of cats who develop pyometra before the age of 1. But this statistic is even more staggering. 91% of the cats who develop pyometra developed it after only 2 heat cycles. Get down a little bit more, 27% with 0 heat cycles, 18% after 1 heat cycle, 36% after only 2 heat cycles. And then the remainder is 3 or more heat cycles, which is just a tiny little fragment of a percentage of the cats who develop pyometra with 3 or more heat cycles. 22% of the reported incidences developed pyometra when they delivered a litter of kittens. Now, what I found in my research is that there is a condition called metritis, and that is an infection of the uterus. It only occurs after a cat has delivered a litter of kittens, and it's caused from bacteria. So my theory, the 22% of cats that delivered kittens and then developed pyometra probably didn't have pyometra at all, including my Natalie, who had just delivered a litter of kittens. She had metritis, which can be treated with some aggressive antibiotics, and worst case scenario is surgery or an emergency spay. So that is something that you might want to inquire about if your queen is delivering kittens and then getting an infection of the uterus. It's not pyometra, it's metritis. So if we break this down into just the facts of what I collected from, it was a small group of people, less than 100, but more than 50. Then we can discover that an overwhelming majority of pyometra occurs in cats that are under 1 year old and have had 2 or less heat cycles. So if the cause for pyometra is it's from a cat who has had too many heat cycles without being mated, is 2 really the number? Is that too many? I don't think so. That doesn't make any sense to me. So maybe pyometra is caused from a bacteria. Maybe the cats are going into heat, their cervix is opening or relaxed, bacteria is entering, and they're developing an infection of the uterus. This is something to be deep dived into a little bit more. Maybe pyometra isn't pyometra at all. Pyometra, before I started researching this, was something that cats got that were 3 or 4 years old and had so many heat cycles without being mated. That develops pyometra. But a young cat that's under 1, that's only had 2 heat cycles, or 1 or 0, and then gets pyometra, that just doesn't make any logical sense. So maybe we should start considering bacteria and how to use preventative measures to keep our girls from getting infections of the uterus. Let me know your thoughts on pyometra and how this maybe has changed the way you think about it. Thanks for listening. If you'd like more information about breeding pedigree cats, you can go to our website, catbreedersensei.com. We support the reputable breeding of pedigree cats, and we want you to be part of our community. See you later.